On today's show, the big Paul George episode, where are we at with the possibilities of him re-signing, opting out, and either signing with the Clippers or signing with someone else, or opting in, which would lead to opting in, which would lead to a likely trade. Gonna be talking about it all on today's Locked On Off-Season Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir, you are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and finished my 19th season as a Clipper fan not too long ago. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA sports and NBA content throughout the offseason. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcast, never behind a paywall. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get great deals on last-minute tickets all the way up to the start of the event. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. You can also find this episode on YouTube, where right now the natural light in the room I'm in is making me look super pale. But shout out to everybody on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post. Today's episode is a big one, Paul George. And by the time this episode comes out, you just never know. There might be major news about Paul George, and we know the answer to these questions. So the opt-in deadline is June 29th. That would be tomorrow. So I am going to be giving you guys as many episodes as I can on Friday, which means, multiple episodes on one day. I got another episode planned right after this one comes out, actually. So stay tuned for everything, the latest on Paul George. Let's start with the possibilities of him re-signing, because we all know that's what he wants to do. Paul George wants to stay with the Clippers. It's very obvious. You don't go to, as a kid from Palmdale who stayed in California for college, you don't go to Indiana and then Oklahoma City and then go to a big city that is your home and then you want to leave. Unless things go horribly wrong. And ever since Paul George has been a Clipper, he's gotten whatever he's wanted. First season, we had a great chance to win the championship, and let's just be honest, he and Kawhi didn't show up at the end, particularly him, in that Denver Nuggets series. 2021, he fully made up for it, right? But here's the thing. The Clippers awarded him. This was the crazy thing. He had just signed a contract in the summer of 2018 with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He gets beaten by the Blazers 4-1 after finishing third in the MVP race in the regular season. And then he has a very mediocre playoff series. I remember he was good in the elimination game. He was not bad in game 4 at all, but game 3 he wasn't very good, although it didn't matter because they won. And then game 1 he was awful, but he looked like his shoulders were clearly bothering him. But then game 2, the crazy part is all the stuff that was happening to Paul George in that series, he does that for the Clippers all the time. So, it's hard to gauge how much of it was the shoulders and how much of it was just his decision-making and just missing shots. Because in the second game, he started out really well, and then he really cooled off as the game went on. I remember he had some really big turnovers in the second half. That was 2019 game 2. Anyway, going on a tangent, but the point is they lost in the first round, and then he demands a trade, essentially, which speeds up what OKC ended up doing, which was rebuilding. I thought Russell Westbrook was going to be an Oklahoma City Thunder player for the entirety of his career. And it's actually fitting that we talk about it since Russell Westbrook is also on our team right now. I thought that Russell Westbrook was going to be OKC for life. And I think the Thunder had the intention of making him OKC for life. And just based on what I know about all these guys now, and again, I met Russell Westbrook once when I was a little kid, which means nothing in the grand scheme of things. I told Paul George one time when I was at the front stage of one of the Clipper preseason events at the Forum, I said, "Best of luck this season, man." And he said, "Thank you." That's on video. That's on my channel. But the point is, and Kawhi, I helped him at SoFi one time getting to his seat. So those 3 interactions, and I've never met James Harden. I've just been in the same gym as him. They don't validate me knowing any of these guys. But from what we know, about their personalities, I don't believe that story that Russell Westbrook tried to ditch Paul George for Kawhi. And then Kawhi was like, yo, he's trying to, pull some sly stuff, Paul. I would rather play with you, though. I don't believe that for 5 seconds. It just does not sound like something Russell Westbrook would do. I think absolutely Kawhi's recruiting Paul George, and Paul George is like, damn, I just re-signed with the Thunder, but that's a great opportunity. And then had a conversation with Russ about it, and Russ was like okay with it, and then, the rest is history. But the crazy part about this is the Clippers re-signed Paul George after he had the worst moment of his NBA career from a performance standpoint. With expectations on him, he fumbled so hard and made a lot of excuses and said some really wild things in the press conference, like we're still in the driver's seat after we had just lost 2 games and blown 2 straight back double-digit leads, and now we were at a game 7 with no real home court. We're at a neutral location. He said we're still in the driver's seat. I mean, that was just, it made me want to I don't know. It was ridiculous. But here's the thing. I was very critical of that contract because what they wanted to do was they aligned PG and Kawhi's contracts up. I was very critical of that contract that we gave him in 2020, but he delivered in 2021. He did more than I expected because when Kawhi went down against the Jazz, I thought we were done because we did not win a game even with Kawhi in Utah those first 2 games. But Paul George just went off in game 5, and then the rest is history. So that's when it was validated for me. And then 2022, obviously that was a fairly rough year, but I thought the 31 games that Paul George played, he was great. And then these last 2 years is really where a lot of Clipper fans have been turned off and just, I wouldn't, maybe turned off is the wrong term, but just very frustrated at this point. Last year there were so many games, and he did this in 2021 a little bit, but even more so in 2023 and 2024, regular season games where he would shoot himself out of a game. He was inefficient, just relying on jumpers and not hitting, not playing smart, not making things easy for himself, and then not always super engaged defensively. Just not playing like a star should, not having that urgency and command of himself, that confidence of himself that, okay, Kawhi isn't playing tonight. I got to shoot at least 20 shots tonight. Doesn't do that. And that kind of stuff really stuck out. And along with that, lack of availability in 2023, missed plenty of games. I believe it was 24, but let me just double check because I haven't checked that number in so long. And then in the playoffs, he missed the entirety of it because of that Lou Dort. I mean, that was a tough injury, man, that Lou Dort collision. But yeah, he missed 26 games in 2023. So 26 games. I mean, he did average 24, 6, and 5. So it's crazy. With James Harden on the team, and Russell Westbrook for a full season, he averaged 1.6 less assists. I mean, that's not the worst in the world. He also averaged 1 full turnover less because of it. So, again, it's what he wanted. He asked to have the ball less. But he's still pretty good in that role that he was in, as a second star with no third star. I think he does need a point guard that can get him the ball in his spots. I thought Russ was a good fit for that. Again, I think James Harden's not a bad fit for him, but the comments he made recently, I don't know if those are shots at Harden about I want to play basketball the right way and whatnot. But I don't know. Regardless of if they are or aren't, that's excuses. This season was the one where he really had no excuse because he hadn't gotten a healthy playoffs. He hadn't really gotten to play in the playoffs since 2021. And he comes out this year and there's no Kawhi. And yeah, I thought he was good enough in game 1, but game 2, game 3, 5, and 6 was just bad. Not getting anything easy, not catching the ball in the mid-post enough, not going to the basket enough when he still can, getting the step on his defender and then pulling it back and letting the defender recover, bad turnovers, no sense of urgency, not demanding the ball enough at times. It was hard to defend it. It's impossible to defend it, in fact. That being said, the Clippers want to re-sign him. Because why not? If you want to run it back, which is what they want to do because they've invested into Kawhi Leonard, they want to re-sign him. But they want his contract to align with Kawhi, which is 3 more years. And Kawhi is signed for 3 years, $152 million starting this season. So he's under contract till 2027. Clippers don't want to do any more than that. And Paul George wants to. He knows this is probably his last big payday. 4 or 5 years is what he wants. Is he going to be given the max? I don't think so. Definitely not by us. We have already established that we're not going to give that to him. From another team, I don't know if that's coming. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But as far as the chances of re-signing Paul, that's what we want to happen. That's what Paul wants to happen. But we know this for a fact. It is not going to be more years than Kawhi unless the Clippers compromise. That's what the game of chicken is being played, like I talked about last episode. And Paul George is not going to take 3 years. The biggest question is, have the Clippers offered him the exact same contract as Kawhi, and has he turned that down? Because if he's getting the same amount as Kawhi, even though he's admitted on his own show that he's not the first option, then that's crazy. Coming up, going to be talking about the chances of Paul George opting out in the next, 40 hours. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get great deals on last-minute tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer it gets to the first pitch. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, everything is easy to find at Game Time. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats with zone deals. And get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy so you get a feel of where you're going to be sitting. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. So let's talk about the chances of Paul George opting out of his contract in the next 48 hours. Here's the thing. Him opting out is not a bad thing for the Clippers, because if he opts in, that means he's gone. That means that, because he's not taking that last year of his contract. He is definitely, we all know now, looking for a new deal. Because here's the thing, if he opts into that final year, that $49 million, and then he gets injured this year, now teams are going to be much more hesitant to pay him. He's got a chance right now, still as a guy who's 22-5-3 on good efficiency every season, at least, to get money. And he's going to try to do that. And I don't blame him at all. The question is, how much does Paul George think that he's worth? So if he opts out, that means that he's either re-signing with the Clippers or he has found someone to pay him what he wants. And that is definitely going to be more than what the Clippers are willing to pay him, obviously. So what team could that be? Philly obviously has the opportunity to max him out. But it seems like they've grown hesitant to that idea in the last week or so. Maybe because, I don't know, they're watching more tape on him, or because they're watching Podcast P and being like, geez, this guy's backtracking about the trade, talking about they're not playing the right way after he's gotten basically everything he's wanted. He's had Reggie Jackson added to the team, which was his friend. He had John Wall added to the team, who was his friend. He had Russell Westbrook added to the team when the GM was adamantly against it. I mean, he has gotten what he wants. He's gotten what he's wanted. And I don't know. Do I feel like it would be kind of scummy for PG to leave the Clippers at this point? A little. But he's entitled to get what he wants to a certain degree. Now, let me just say this. If he's asking for $50 million a year for any amount of years, I just think that's too much for him. That's too much in this day and age for Paul George. It just is. However, OG Anunoby just made $42 million per year for the Knicks. However, he's approaching his prime, and he's one of the guys that you can put into consideration for, like, best role player in the league. Like, He can guard your best player. He can create a shot to a small degree. He's kind of like a lower version of what Wiggins was for the Warriors in that 2022 run, in my opinion. That's what I would say. He's getting paid $42 million. Now, I would think most people still consider Paul George better than OG Anunoby. But OG Anunoby does his job. Paul George doesn't necessarily do his all the time. You're probably more satisfied with the performances of OG Anunoby, but you're not holding him to as high of a standard as Paul George. So, can Paul George make the case, look, that's what these guys are making. I'm worth $50 million. But Kawhi, in our sense, looking at our books, Kawhi is $50 million. So, again, I'm so curious as to if the Clippers have offered Paul George that same contract that they've offered Kawhi, but I don't know. We'll see if we can get more information on that. Let's say they're offering him 3 years, $135 million. So $45 million a year. You're getting about $17 million less than Kawhi overall, but you're getting a pretty solid payday. They probably have offered something like that, and he said no. So in that case, I mean, what about 4 years, $180 million? $45 million a year. The Clippers don't want to do that. But why don't we just, like, we might have to just bite the bullet and say, look, we'll give you that. You can have a player option in that last year, and if you want to leave after this era ends, then fine. So, and I don't think that's the worst contract in the world, especially with the new TV deal set to come in. I don't think that's the end of the world, paying him that. But if he opts out, I think it's most likely going to the Clipper, re-signing with us. So if you're a Clipper fan that wants to keep Paul George, you're hoping for that opt-out news. But here's the thing: he could opt out and go somewhere else. I just don't believe that a team is going to pay him so much. Orlando, I don't think he wants to go to the East Coast. Now, coming up, the scenario that has increased in likelihood over the last few days, with one team in California leading the charge. Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, so talking about the last scenario, the Clippers and Paul George not agreeing to a new deal. Paul George has a better deal on the horizon after next season that he's going where the contract will start if he signs one, which he can sign 6 months after the trade, the date of the trade. We probably don't have, or the Warriors probably don't have the, so yeah, that's the team. The Warriors don't have the ability to sign and trade. I don't think both, the Clippers also, you know, with the restrictions on teams that are over the second apron, I don't think that we will be able to do a sign and trade. I think what has to happen is an opt-in from Paul George, and then we trade him, just like we did with Chris Paul, right? So, which is best case scenario, because that kind of kickstarted our rebuild. And that's exactly what I want now. Is everyone's afraid about rebuilding because we don't have picks. So that's why we got to try to get some young talent and or picks in these exchanges. So, you know, I can't lie. I love Paul George. I really do. Like, he's my favorite of the stars that we have, I'd say. Russell Westbrook being a close second. Even though I think Kawhi and James Harden probably had better seasons this past season. But that has nothing to do with how much I like somebody. My favorite player on the team is Terrence Mann. So, it's different. That's a conversation for another day on my own channel. But it's going to suck to see him go. Especially on, like, we feel like we could have done more. But Paul George, I mean, I don't really have faith in him anymore. I think he had one incredible year for us, and then the other years have been a lot of the same. And it's a player that doesn't really take accountability. He leaves a lot on the table. And here's the thing. I don't believe that we're going to be better without him. I don't. But if we can get a Jonathan Kuminga or a Moses Moody or a pick, we have a chance this year. I'd like to see maybe Kawhi stay healthy. I'm not confident about James Harden in the second option role by any stretch. But at least we have a chance to say, if we don't think Kawhi and Harden are going well, they look old, hit the reset button, and we've got Jonathan Kuminga. We can add some young talent to that. That really entices me as a fan that wants change because they've lost faith in this. So we'll see, man. I'm on here. Either way, just the one thing that cannot happen is we cannot have Paul George leave for free. That would be a disaster. That would be a complete disaster. We need to get something for him or re-sign him because then we can either trade him later, or if we're running it back, we're running it back with I mean, look, we did this with Paul George and Kawhi. And quite frankly, Kawhi has done nothing for us to say he's not getting enough help. He's not healthy. So Paul George, in theory, is not getting enough help because we're putting him in roles that he shouldn't be put in at this point. That does not excuse his performances, though. But that's what the tough conversation is. Like, I don't feel bad for Kawhi other than the fact that he's not been healthy. I feel bad that he can't play. But I don't think it's like, Kawhi needs more help. How can you say that? So, I don't know. It's just a very interesting situation because I never felt that we'd be here in 5 years, especially with the guy out of the duo that is constantly on camera and is wearing Clipper gear all the time and keeps saying he wants to retire here and is so public about that he wants to end his career here. But I remember when Paul George would make all these comments, I'd be like, well, we'll see if I want you to end your career here. Because I was never sold on Paul when we got him because he had just come off 2 really bad postseasons, and for my estimation. Like, people are going to, you know what, since I already have his stats up right now, I'm going to look at his playoff stats in 2019. Okay, see, look, his stats look fantastic. He averaged 29, 9, and 4. 29, 9, and 4. That's really good. He did average 4 turnovers, though. More turnovers than he did assists. So that tells you something, right? He shot 44%, which, if you want to compare that to the season, oh, wow, it's actually the same. The exact same. Damn, he really got third in the MVP voting for shooting 44%. But the 3-ball, in the regular season, he shot 39% from 3. So the true shooting probably ended up being really good. Damn, he only shot 84% from the line. That's crazy because this season he shot 91. But in the playoffs, he only shot 32% from 3. So, and 82 from the line. Like, I'm telling you, this guy, in a 5-game series, you can have 1 or 2 games that make the averages look good, but he wasn't great. And again, people are going to talk about the injury. Then there's the previous year where he averaged 25 points on 41% shooting in the playoffs. I mean, 25 is not bad, but 41. And here's the thing. I'm not a big efficiency guy if you win. If you're losing and you're inefficient, well, then, yeah, you're not hitting at the level that you should be. You can still be not hitting at the level that you should be when you win, but I always feel like when a team wins, usually even if a guy's been inefficient, he's doing something else that's helping the team win that night. So, and my issue with Paul is when his shot's not falling and when he's having these slumps, sometimes he won't be engaging defensively like he should be. He'll be at fault for miscommunications on that end of the floor a lot and can be disengaged off the ball in transition, just not playing with the effort that I've seen Paul George play at defensively throughout his career. And it's very, like, with guys like Paul George, it's always, you can always tell in their body language when they're defending. If you watch them enough, you can tell when they're engaged and when they're not. Another guy that I can tell that with is LeBron because I've watched him so much over the course of his career. So, yeah, I mean, the two-way player stuff with Paul George right now is an exaggeration. He is a two-way player, but he's not one of the best two-way players in the league. I don't think he's good enough offensively or defensively right now for people to say that anymore. And I've always had a weird thing with that two-way player thing. It just feels like a way to say that someone's really good at defense that can play offense, which, again, complete basketball players, 2 sides of the ball, too many offense versus guys or offense-only guys. But anyway, that's it for me in this one. We'll have an episode coming out later Friday night. We'll see if there's any news out by then. But you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more content on the NBA this offseason and NBA history, LA Clippers, whatever you name it. We've got it. And Locked On Clippers, all things LA Clippers, the latest news, 5 days a week, all summer long, right here with your boy. Hit the notification bell. on YouTube, so you know every single time we post a video. Let's get to 6,000 subscribers. Tell your friends if they're Clipper fans about this show, and please hit the subscribe button. Let's get to 6K and climb up the rankings, because when I took over this platform, we were dead last in terms of subscribers on Locked On NBA teams, and now we've climbed up to like 23, so let's keep showing everybody what Clipper Nation's all about. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers. Yikes.